Welcome to Real Men Eat Plants, the podcast that challenges the stereotype that a plant-based diet is only for Eve's offspring and green smoothie anarchists. We're here to show you that real men can thrive on a plant-based diet, and that it's not only good for your health, but also for the planet, animals, and most importantly, your libido. Okay, maybe your libido shouldn't be more important than the planet, but we're just being realistic here. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of plant-based living, sharing inspiring stories, exciting plant-based news, and highlighting the achievements of individuals who have embraced this empowering way of life. So grab that green smoothie and settle into your favorite spot, and let's embark on an exciting journey together. Real Men Eat Plants is your hub for inspiration, information, and connection within the vibrant world of plant-based living.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Men Eat Plants podcast. I'm your host today, Bryan Dennstedt, founder with Real People Eat Plants. That's our new name of that company, and I'm excited to have a whole bunch of real men hanging out with me who are eating some plants on a regular basis. And so I just wanted to say thank you and welcome everybody. I want to go into some introductions, but before I do, I wanted to sort of set the stage with today's topic, which is really around, I wrote it down over here, lab grown meat in particular, but I just wanted to unpack meat as a topic for us, because I'm sure as men in the world, we get asked about the meat all the time, and we've got a wide variety of answers that we throw at them. So I want to unpack that topic in a couple different ways. But I thought first and foremost, I'd just start with some statistics, because I found this really interesting. I found this website a couple days ago. I've seen versions of it before, but this one was really, really impressive. So if I share my screen and I pull up this this chart here, I'm going to refresh this because it's going to go back to zero. And so it just went back to zero. We're starting the podcast episode. And this is, the best guess estimation of how many animals have died since we started this podcast. So I'll keep this up here for a minute or two, and then we can show it again a couple times throughout the podcast. But this is the topic of meat today. And so I wanted to let each of our guests say hello, introduce themselves, and sort of with a little bit of a twist. I'm curious. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and tell me what you had for dinner last night. What was on your plate last night for dinner? So who wants to go first?
Hi, my name's Paul Chatlin. I'm the founder of the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group and the co-founder of the Sage Circle Alliance. For dinner last night, I made spring rolls. So I used rice flour spring roll and then threw in tofu, angel hair rice pasta, along with some carrots, celery, and onions. And it was very tasty.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul, for being here. Tom, I saw your hand go up. Welcome to the show.
Okay. So, Tom Kramer is my name, and I am the producer, editor of the Nutmeg Notebook, Whole Food Plant-Based Lifestyle cooking blog / YouTube channel. And for dinner last night, I had one of our famous, big, beautiful chopped salads, about 9 cups of it worth. And it has over a dozen different vegetables in it. I could name them all, but it would take too long. But we knock out Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen in one meal with that one. And I've said many times, I love that meal. I look forward to that meal because you get to eat it for a long time. It's about a 40-minute graze, eating what I kindly call my human silage. So
I love it.
I love that meal because it's got everything in it. So
awesome. Thanks for being here, Tom. Yeah. Geoff, Mr. McVegan.
Yeah. So I thought it was an appropriate shirt to wear for this topic. So we can adopt things to our diet. My name is Geoff Palmer. I am the CEO and founder of Clean Machine. It's a vegan fitness nutrition company. Also the founder of the World Vegan Bodybuilding Championship, the first 100% drug-free vegan, all vegan bodybuilding competition in the world.
Woo!
And lately I've been on a tear. We're working with some of the top omega researchers in the world to show that human beings are designed to consume plant-based omegas and not fish oil, which you'll see from the counter are the most persecuted species on this planet. Last night for dinner, my wife made amazing barbecued portobellos and then homemade Beyond Meat stuffed empanadas with a vegan coleslaw. So it was a picnic style dinner and it was amazing.
Actually, now that you say that, I think I saw a picture of that online someplace. So yeah, it looked pretty good. So that's awesome. Thanks for being here, Geoff. And last but not least, Brett.
I love it, Geoff. You're gearing up for summer already. I love it. Yeah. So
Florida.
my name's Brett Nyquist. I've been a real man who eats plants since 2015. I am the director of technology for the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group, and recently founded the company Green Sprout Marketing, where I try to help other plant-based organizations, drive their mission forward. So, last night for dinner, it was my go-to quick meal, which is some brown rice pasta noodles, and then I make my cashew cheese, kind of like a macaroni and cheese sauce. I dump it over the pasta, throw in some broccoli, and it's quick, easy, delicious. That was it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing your insights. I last night made up some gnocchi. I had some amazing gnocchi, and then I have a hydroponic garden. And so I just trimmed off some I have like 7 different kinds of lettuce. I trimmed off a whole bunch of different kinds of lettuce and made that all up into a really nice salad with some carrots, pumpkin seeds, the nooch. I love to sprinkle a little nooch on there, nutritional yeast. What else did I put in there? I put a few olives in there, and I don't know, just a nice smorgasbord of it. So it was a big side of salad and some gnocchi. It was pesto gnocchi. So I popped a little pesto on the gnocchi, and it was delicious. So thanks, guys, for sharing that. So, I want to share the counter again as I sort of set up the topic, just so we can keep looking at it a couple times throughout the show here. But, for those of you that are listening, since we've started the podcast, almost 1 million marine animals, 500,000 chickens, 25,000 ducks, 14,000 pigs, 10,000 rabbits, 8,000 turkeys. Where's the cows? The cows, about 3,000 cows, and it all the way goes down to camels. 22 camels have died since we've just started this podcast, and we're about 7-8 minutes in on that. So as we unpack this topic, I really wanted to. I was trying to think how do we approach just talking about meat? Because I guess in my head I kind of think of meat in 4 or 5 categories. There's meals that I have that are just plants, they aren't pretending to be anything else. It's just potato gnocchi and some salad last night for me. And then I go up one level and it's okay, I've got my mushrooms, I think Geoff was saying, mushrooms with some barbecue sauce on them. So I miss the barbecue flavor a little bit. So there's just plants that have got some coatings or some things that maybe give us some reminders of meat. And then I feel you take a step up to tempeh, seitan, maybe some bean burgers, what Tom and his wife put together, kind of thing, where you take some plants and you just sort of smush them together in the shape of a meat, basically. And then you go up from there into I feel the more processed foods, where it's the Beyond Meat or Impossible Burgers, where they're still all plants, but they process them. They're more heavily processed than normal. And then I feel then we've probably got this gray zone of lab grown meat, and then you've got real meat, right? I don't know. That's the tier structure I see. How do you guys unpack it or define it in your heads?
They're kind of a category thing, the eating plants as plants, not pretending to be anything else. That is typically how we do eat at home. We're not trying to emulate anything from the past. And then I would, we do make the bean burgers, but we don't think about them as a meat substitute. A burger is a burger, and it's made of beans in our world now. 10 years later, we're not thinking back to what I used to get at McDonald's. But and then stepping up from there, I used to do these. 10 years ago, my transition food was the tofurkey, the field roast sausages, brats, and Polish. I have to credit that stuff with successful transition, stepping away from real meat and getting something plant-based. As I became more educated and saw the oil pouring out of those things as I was cooking them, then I moved off of them for obvious health reasons. The lab meats and stuff is a thing that occurs for me when we're out somewhere. One of the guys mentioned the Beyond Meat. If we're at some restaurant and they've got a vegan thing for Tammy and they have that vegan burger, I would order one of those. That's a rare thing, but that's the one I think of the two fake burgers that would be better, because that one's made out of pea protein. The other one is the very interesting heme added soy, highly genetically modified concoction, which is, don't know what to think of that one. That's kind of the extreme end. And then on up to the lab grown meats, I haven't explored those yet that are actually emulating, tissue-wise, what you might call real meat.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm curious what other people did. Was what Tom and I said interesting, or to define it well enough for all of us as we explore some other pieces of the topic?
I think you need to look at it in a couple different lenses. Obviously, the effect it has on the planet, the effect it has on human health, and the effect that it has on the animal.
For sure.
So obviously, lab-grown meat is better than meat because it has much less impact on the animal. There's little to no animal endangerment at that level, and then of course a much better improvement on the environment, as you're not paying for that cow to be raised and having their impressions of methane and all that is removed. So in human health, I think we have to be careful of this word processed being misused. Process means simply changing something from its natural state or its whole food state. Okay, all cooked food is therefore processed food.
Yep.
But human beings don't think of cooked food as processed food. You ask somebody if they're on a whole food plant-based diet, they say, yeah, I don't do processed foods. And I say, oh, you don't cook your food? And they're like, okay.
Right.
So we got to be careful with this terminology, because we tend to demonize use a term for demonization of a category without truly understanding what it encompasses. And I think we need to be careful, because the processed label is now getting a really, really bad rap. Beyond Foods just modified their Beyond Burger and made it way less processed, reduced the saturated fat by 75%. Because they got hung with a label of ultra processed food, and it's really hurt their business model.
Yeah.
But hey, would I rather have somebody eating an ultra processed food than an animal food? 100%. There's no animal killed in the process.
Yeah.
So we need to look at it through separate lenses and clarify how are you defining those tiers based on, one, what words we're using, and two, their impact on humans, animals, and the environment.
I agree. I want to unpack those three topics a little bit more detail. But the anecdote that you threw in my head is, I think the English language is one of the most robust on the planet, and therefore why it's so dominant. But it is kind of silly. We only have the one word for love versus the Eskimos or some other languages and stuff. And I do think we have to better define processed into the truer nature of it. So I'd be curious on that. Is there anything else, just on the definition side of it, Brett or Paul, you would add?
I was just going to say that if it wasn't for when I first started, the first thing that turned me on to this lifestyle was Cowspiracy. So when I first started, Beyond Meat, and I don't even know if Beyond Meat was even released in stores yet back in 2015 when I started. I don't remember, but I just went straight to beans and Whole Foods because that stuff wasn't even around. So when it did come out, I was obviously curious to try it, and I liked it. But it didn't transition me. But I think that, as Tom said, they're really good transition foods. I'm a big in this space. I'm more focused on health, but obviously animals and the environment are super important too. Um, so I would hate to see that somebody's eating like a Beyond Burger for every meal without
Yeah.
the added whole foods. But I don't think a lot of people are doing that. But man, without those foods, I think that some people wouldn't even transition to this lifestyle. So I think they're
Right.
really important.
I guess couple thoughts. One is I've always believed that we have to make the humans right before we could worry about the animals and the planet, even though I'm an animal lover and I'm really worried about the planet. We're just selfish beings, so we've got to make us right. For me personally, I can tell you, I've never had a Beyond Burger or any of that stuff. I got my head around the idea for health reasons that I was not going that route, and I am whole food, plant-based, no oil, period. So my line is drawn much lower. Don't think for a moment that I don't look at that food, even to this day, 12 years later, wish I could have it at times. But I also know from a health aspect, and this is the real man part of this equation, which is it was everything. To this day, it's still darn difficult to say no when everyone around me is eating their burgers and their steaks and their lobsters or whatever they're eating.
Hmm.
But the real man part of me says, I know what it did to me. I'm not going to be in that space ever again. And here I am. So,
Yeah.
I would say the last little thought is twice I've been wheeled in for bypass surgery and twice haven't had to have it. And I owe it to a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So,
I got to add to that too. Like, I'm 35. I'm a little younger, I guess you would say, but my blood tests and I've had a calcium score and all that, and everything is, it seems pretty perfect. Obviously, people with heart disease would be different on this topic, but like I said, I've eaten a lot of whole foods, but I've also dabbled in Beyond Meat and Impossible Burgers, and you know, uh, there's Jack and Annie's, like jackfruit chicken tenders. So the processed food I have eaten countless times in my plant-based journey. There's no doubt about it, and I would hate for people to like not do this lifestyle and avoid those transition foods, thinking that it's going to be worse for their health. I mean, that would be the wrong way to go to get them into this lifestyle. And Jeff, I wanted to back that up. I'm actually pretty excited to try that avocado oil Beyond Burger that they're coming out with, because that seems pretty interesting.
And I feel like like we should start. I want to come back to the health side of it because I think that's a key one. But like if we start with that environmental piece of it, right? Because like lab grown meat is touted as more sustainable alternative to conventional, but it still requires a significant amount of energy and technology and resources because it's still, in my opinion, meat. Therefore, it needs the blood in and the nutrients in and the crappy stuff out of the cells back out. So I still feel like it's gonna, from an environmental perspective, it's definitely a step up. It's not going to take as much land, as much grain, as much, the ethical side of it too. But like, I don't know how much of that's going to move the needle towards saving the planet, right? There's no planet B. So like, let's unpack the environmental side of it. Because I think the environmental side, to what you just said, Brett, is very much so tied into the whole earth coming together on an economic level in some fashion to really figure this out. We have to vote with our wallets. That's the only real way to change this planet, is by making sure you buy Jeff's product or you support Paul or you support Tom with our initiatives. And that means we do have to support Beyond Meat, whether we think it's in that gray area a little bit. We have to buy those burgers and help them beat the meat industry kind of thing. I don't know. So talk to me about the environment and in economic things.
I just wanted to, piggyback off that real quick before my thought went away. Where I wish that we could all just eat 95% whole foods, and then we wouldn't even need that lab meat, and the 5% could be the Beyond and the Impossible Burgers, right? Like I'd rather see that.
I love it. Let's do it.
Having to go to lab meat at all. Like,
Right.
if you want to have that meat taste, just have an Impossible Burger.
Yeah. Other thoughts?
My opinion.
My biggest concern with lab meat is I'm an ethical vegan, so I'm compassionate to all animals, including the human animal. Humans are just another animal. Yes, we're an extraordinary animal, but there are a lot of extraordinary animals on this planet that we share our home with. And I think for me personally, why health is so important in that aspect is because I'm trying to care for the human animal as well. I am concerned about their health, human health, as well as a human animal.
Yeah.
I don't want to cause harm to an animal and then say it's okay to cause harm to a human animal. That's specious, and that's not in line with my thinking. When you look at lab-grown meat, it still has high methionine, which is linked to shortening lifespan and increasing. We know that all cancers are now methionine dependent. They depend on methionine. The higher methionine you have in the food you eat, the lower the lifespan and the higher the risk for feeding and growing cancers. We know it has heme iron in it. That's why I've never eaten an Impossible Burger, even though the heme iron is Lega heme iron, which is different and has never been proven in research to have the same effects as heme iron. Heme iron is a known carcinogen. It is the strongest link to colon cancer of anything we have pretty much in our food system.
Right.
We know that. So there's not any debate about this. So yes, I love, from an animal point of view, love that the animal is not being killed in the process. And I do think the environment, hey, look, if we lose the planet, all life goes away. So that's got to be start number one. But I think as a true ethical vegan, I cannot condone hurting human beings, knowingly causing death and suffering to human beings as a compassionate vegan. It's just not in line with my things. And I've seen some of these groups even get vegan certification for animal products. And I'm not for that at all, because it's not in line with the true keeping of the definition of do no harm to animals.
Yeah. Tom or Paul, some thoughts on the environment side?
Well, out here in California, we have very large cattle production facilities, and you can detect them from miles away. So, and then we recently made a trip to Southern California, driving down Interstate 5, and we're reminded once again of the massive quantity, like your counter. There's thousands of cattle out there in this disgusting environment, and so it's the gases are getting out there because you can smell them miles away. So to have that evidence like right in your face is a strong reminder of that piece of it. And kind of on what the two gentlemen before me had touched on a little bit, what I can't wrap my head around with the lab-grown meat or even the Impossible Burger in particular, because of the heme component. Why would you keep throwing? If you, 10 years in, I've developed a completely different habit set in terms of what I desire, what I crave, what I want. I look forward to getting something with a variety of beans in it, or some tofu cubes, or a bean burger, whatever. I really desire, you learn to desire what you habitually eat. Why would you go back and tease that old habit from 10 or whatever, however many years ago, with something that very closely resembles something that you worked so hard to move away from?
Yeah.
Why would you, when you quit smoking, you've quit smoking. You don't go back and sample a cigarette every 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Just because you like,
There's some new cigarette out. We have to try it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like, why do that to yourself? I mean, I tried the Impossible Burger in some restaurant, and it truly kind of freaked me out when I bit it and what looked like blood started oozing out. The Beyond Burger is the one with the pea protein is, a little less in your face that way. Again, I ordered that when there's really not a more desirable item on the menu, I know that that's vegan, and so that then I can share that meal with folks. So anyway, I guess my big question on the whole subject is why bother with
I gotta say,
these
Tom, I
things?
gotta agree with you. Like, if you know how to cook tofu, right? Like, I do this Kentucky fried tofu in my air fryer, and all it is you freeze the tofu, you thaw it, you freeze it again, and then you thaw it, and you have this amazing texture. You
Right.
break it off into what looks like little popcorn chicken
Uh-huh.
pieces, bread it in flour and spices, throw it in the air fryer, and it's like, I think it's better than any of the processed
Yeah.
chicken, like vegan chicken that I've tried.
Yeah, and you can look forward to that for what it is and not
Yep.
what it's pretending to be. I don't need to have my food pretend that it's meat. I just am past that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, make sure, Brett, you get us that recipe. We can pop it in the show notes.
It's
and I was
really
going to
good.
say,
Yeah.
Paul, like something you and I talked about a week or two or three back, I think is still stuck with me at several business events that I've been to, is I would probably go for one of the alternative meat proteins, like the Impossible or Beyond or whatever kind of a thing. But honestly, I could probably stand to lose a pound or two. I've taken your advice and I'm just going to skip it. I'll be a little bit hungry and I'll make it up at dinner time. I'm not worried about it. So I know that's harder for you on the no oil side of it. But do you have any thoughts on the environment pieces? I know we all want to get to the health side of it.
Yeah, on the environment side, maybe I look at it differently. I look at it like, for us to make a difference, somebody has to lead the way. So maybe it's the United States, but realistically, until we get China and some of and India, which is what 2/3 of people on the planet, like, what are we doing? Like, we're not moving their needle too much these days. That's no reason for us not to do it. So I kind of want to go at it, me personally, from a whole different angle, which is simply we need to create a vegan voice, a louder vegan voice, so then we can be more, an influencer of sorts. And how are we going to create a bigger voice? Well, it's like the five of us right here. We need to get five more and five more on top of that and continue to grow. Because good luck going against the meat industry or the dairy industry. Good luck. You never hear a peep from them because they're doing great. Their profits are off the charts and everyone's happy. We need to create something so we can at least refute some of the things that they're doing. So I just look at it differently. Yes, I want to change planet, environment. We only, as you said, Brian, we only have one planet. So the fact is, we got to do things now, because by the time we all get together and have a voice, it might be too late. Who knows?
Right. And it's so interesting. So let's pivot over to the health one, because I think there's plenty to unpack there. And the anecdote that I will give is just like, how do we, at least in the United States, get the government or the FDA or whoever to just outlaw certain things that we know are bad for us? Other countries have done this. I was so surprised. A friend of mine had to take their blood sugar test and they had to drink that nasty drink, and it was bright orange, and you read the ingredients and it has the red dye number 40 in it. Like, why does it even need to have red dye number 40 in it when I'm taking just a simple glucose test kind of a thing? That just still blew my mind. And I made a note to speak to the doctor about that, just to sort of say, hey, like, what's going on? Like, that doesn't even need to be in a simple test like this. It can be any color it needs to be. And then Geoff mentioned a few things, that are known cancer-causing things that are hiding in some of the foods that we eat. Like, we just have to rally. And if we can't vote with our wallets, we have to get it outlawed in some fashion or another. But let's unpack the health side of it a little bit more. So, Geoff, you want to hit us with some facts that we can react to?
Yeah, but before I want to talk about this one little subject, which is lab-grown meat a stepping stone, or is it a pacifier against change, real change?
I'm
conflicted
I feel
with
totally
that myself.
pacifier.
I'm conflicted with that myself. In some ways, I want to applaud that there's movement at all, because especially males are so entrenched and addicted to this habitual and behavioral and society's push to be meat as masculinity, that even taking a little step, I'm like, yes, now keep going. But at the same time, is it a pacifier? It's like, oh, well, I've got lab grown meat, so I don't have to change eating meat. It's like, so I'm like,
if the lab-grown meat helps us save the planet and helps stop the animal killing, and you still want to ruin your health, like, I guess that's a personal choice. But I think of it as a pacifier. Like, I'm going to take care of my health and my body, and I know that's not good for me. But if you want to do you, as long as we're fixing the planet, that's what as a society, we're moving forward. I'm okay with that.
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I Want Tofu Tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
Yeah, but on the health side, it's so abundantly clear. I'm writing a book now because I've been pulling together research for, well, on March 15th, it will be 40 years. I began my 40th year as a vegan. So, been at it for a little while, but I was a biopsych major in college, and I started reading the research, and I just got fascinated because I was trained well in reading studies and the language and stuff. And I'm like, well, we're discovering all these things, but it's never making the mainstream. It's staying in circles of academia and the scientific community, and nobody's talking about it. Why? Because there's vested interest in profiteering from people being not healthy. Doctors are making money, pharmaceuticals are making money, insurance companies are making money, and hospitals are making trillions of dollars off of our ill health. And that's why they don't want this information out there. And I hate to sound so cynical and I hate conspiracy theorist stuff. I'm not that at all. I'm a science-based person, but you have to understand human beings like their profit. They rationalize it by, hey, I got to feed my wife and children. I have the right to make my own money. But I think we need to get back to health being health, not health being sick care,
I agree, but at a macro level, on the economic side of it, to get to help people's health, like, I had a really interesting chat with Paul Shapiro. He's the CEO of Better Meat Co., and he's doing the mycelium meats. And him and I were talking about he tried to go down the advocation route and the lobbying and all that route. And his story was really like the moments of change that has helped the animals and helped our health has been through technology, right? The advent of the car stopped all the horse suffering, right? The advent of the fountain pen stopped all the ducks, and you watch his TED Talk. Like, I totally loved his TED Talk. So watch Paul Shapiro's TED Talk on that. Like, the technology throughout the thousands of years we've been evolving with technology and stuff has what's changed the paradigm. So, like, is the lab grown meat that paradigm shift that at least helps it, and then we can figure out how to make healthier lab grown meat or make the meat without the silly bad stuff? Like, I don't know. Is one meat healthier than another? I mean, that's a debate for the meat eater side of the fence, but like, yeah, I don't know. Just, I had to throw that out there. So,
well, let's just take meat and break it down. So, one, there's saturated fat in it. Saturated fat is a known cause of type 2 diabetes. Two, there's cholesterol. Cholesterol is the leading cause of atherosclerosis, the number one cause of death of everyone on the planet globally. Number three, it has heme iron. Number two, when you put meat in a digestive tract, it forms TMAO. TMAO forces that cholesterol into the arterial walls and causes plaquing. These are all causal in death. Methionine levels, causal for feeding cancers. All cancers are methionine dependent. The higher the methionine. Longevity itself is methionine dependent. You can reduce methionine and extend the life of every single mammal on this planet, except carnivores. They don't seem to be bothered by it because that's their natural food source. Right. So it's really clear that you would have to change almost everything about the lab meat to make it actually non-cancer causing, non-life shortening, non-disease causal. And like at that point, Why not just eat the dang plant? They have it right.
I agree. And it goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago. The taste in our mouth drives the economy, not the long-term benefits of it, right? So, Paul, you've been quiet over there. Weigh in.
No. I mean, and Geoff, thank you for all that. And what I could add to what Geoff said was, for me, I was a meat eater, 12, 13 years ago. And when I had to make the choice to make the leap with the lifestyle change, I said I could do anything for 60 days. So I'm going to go all in. I'm not touching any meat, dairy, oil. But I was eating foods I didn't like. I did not grow up enjoying vegetables, okay? But here's the beautiful thing. After about 14, 16 days, my taste buds changed. Now, do I love beans? No. But I eat them now. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up eating them. I didn't like them. But now I eat them, and they're okay. So I'm just saying that, like, if since this is the Real Man show, like, anybody should man up, give it a go for 60 days. Everyone says 21, 14, 7 days, 1 day. Go 60 days. And I've always said this on other podcasts. You do a lipid panel before, you do a lipid panel, man up for 60 days. And guess what will happen? You'll lose 15, 20 pounds. Your numbers will be great. Your taste buds will change. Man up. Do it. Because
that's right.
All you're going to do is be a beacon for your family, all the loved ones you have. You'll be able to talk to people a lot because they'll say, wow, you look great. And, you'll be able to feel better, a lot better.
Yep.
Let's not wait around until there's global warming that hits this planet. And that's what makes the change in people. That's what scares me. It's got to be a cataclysmic moment wherever the world gets together and says, okay, we got to stop doing this stuff. How many people will die when that happens? How life will be altered? Again, I go back to simply saying, with all the facts that Geoff has shared, and Tom and everybody else, at the end of the day, we are a whisper, not even a whisper to this world right now, us vegans. Okay? So we have to change what we've been doing. And how do we do that? By working together.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
All right.
Brett, Tom, anything you want to add on the health side of it before let's talk about the ethical side a little bit more?
Well, just echoing with Paul, my story exactly as many of us have described. My wife and I both were having high cholesterol numbers, high triglyceride numbers. She drove the change. I followed, through the transition period of about a year, and all the cholesterol, the blood sugar, all that stuff came crashing down to surprisingly low levels, because my doctor was quite surprised. It's like, I don't know what you're doing, but your numbers are really low, but they're in perfect ratio. So I guess it's okay. Yeah. So, the doctor was scratching his head on how my cholesterol levels could be perfectly balanced, but so low. That piece is just, echoed so many times. We have friends, clients here, 80 years old, that were, kind of echoing with Paul. Multiple bypasses. At 80 years old, he was told to get his papers in order. That he had probably 90 days to live. That was 6 years ago. He rides his bike several times a week now. It's one of those big tricycles with the flag, but he's very physically active. It comes to all of our vegan gatherings we have here in the Sacramento area. He's living a very lively lifestyle. If he was still eating meat, he would be dead. So there's that piece. And then just in general on the subject, the correlation of the habit of eating meat. For me, there's correlations. Paul just mentioned, I crave beans. Black beans are like my hamburger. I used
Absolutely.
I used to live at McDonald's when I was on the road in sales, but so I covet the black beans, and edamame beans are like my shrimp. Because I used to eat like the shrimp cocktail. Tofu is in whatever form of cooked is like my fish. I think about these things. Oh, I feel like tofu today. I'm going to make some tofu things, So in my head, those cravings, those desires, those wants have all transitioned to, specific niches within the whole food plant-based arena. the fake meat thing, that does happen when we're out in the world and there's not another choice that would be purely vegan. So we stay true to that by eating, whatever plant-based, processed or not product I can find.
Yep. And it's so true because like I took a little vacation a couple weeks back and I went to a vegan resort and I got to try New Wave shrimp, and they are these vegan shrimp. They look like shrimp for the most part, but at the same time, like I tried it. It definitely brought me back to that's what shrimp tasted like. But at the same time, I didn't like the taste anymore. Like, I guess I've been doing this long enough that I'm like, it's a great transition food. It was cool to play with it and see the resort, catering to that kind of a thing and supporting those plant-based initiatives. But I just like, great. I tried it. I don't need to have that in my life anymore. I didn't miss it. And I was craving the edamame on vacation. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Where are you guys where are you guys on tofu scramble? I mean, when we have company or something, we don't have that every day. But if there's something going on, I look forward to tofu scramble. In my head, I'm thinking we get tofu scramble. I'm not thinking I get fake eggs. That's not happening.
Love tofu scramble. Absolutely love it.
So it just shifts. Absolutely. I mean, and like Paul said, I think 60 days, you'll see all the benefits of it. And in 6 months, your taste buds will have fully shifted. And in 2-3 years, I don't even think about it. You think tofu. You don't think eggs anymore. So
before we get to the ethical side, I have to say one thing on health, right? People my age are getting colon cancer now, right?
It's crazy.
Wake
You're
up.
too young.
Like we grew up on processed foods. We grew up on a lot of meat. We gotta start shifting that, because 31-year-olds getting colon cancer is just, is there anything more that we need to be like, look, we need to change our food habits? Like,
yes. Well said.
Let me just jump in here, because this is such a beautiful example of why plants are better than animal products. Okay, so heme iron is only found in animal flesh. It's because human beings, like every other animal, takes the iron from the food sources and changes it into a form called heme iron. So it's present in all animal flesh. That's fish, poultry, lamb, whatever the animal, it has heme iron in it. Okay. Plants produce an iron that is in beans and grains that is attached to a powerful antioxidant called phytate, or IP6. Okay. Heme iron is a free iron, which means the body says, wow, I can just grab that and use it right away. So it tries to pull it in fast. Well, we used to think, it absorbs so much faster than regular iron. That's a good thing. No, it's a bad thing. What happens to iron when you get it wet? It rusts. It's called oxidation. And as soon as it rusts, it becomes cellular damaging. It harms cell tissues. So when the body pulls it in really fast because it's free, it's unattached, it says, oh my God, that's too much. So our liver produces this thing called hepcidin to put the brakes on that heme iron from getting into the bloodstream, because too much in the bloodstream would attract oxygen-free radicals and damage everything in the bloodstream, including our heart and vital tissues, because blood touches everything. So our body stops that heme iron for up to 24 to 48 hours. It stops it. So what happens to all that heme iron? It builds up in our colon. Okay, now you've got heme iron with a free radical oxygens attached to it, damaging tissues. It's not only cytotoxic, which means it damages the cells, it's genotoxic. It gets inside the cells and damages the DNA. Well, what then does it? Then the cell starts producing bad copies from damaged DNA. That is colon cancer. We know how it's caused. It builds up nitrosamines, which are carcinogenic. Now, here's the cool thing. That plant iron that's bound to that IP6, our body says only break it off. We actually communicate to our microbiome and tell them when to break off that IP6. Once we break it off, then it only allows enough heme iron that our body wants. It's a control mechanism. It's a stabilize. It's an antioxidant. So it prevents that iron from ever oxidating and being able to cause this damage. Now, if that weren't cool enough, that IP6 itself can go in and kill cancer cells. It can go in and actually prevent that cell from ever becoming cancerous. But this is the coolest thing. That IP6 can go in and repair the DNA and change a cancer cell back into a normal, healthy cell. That's something that no drug on this planet can do, is change a cancer cell back into a healthy cell. And plants do this every single meal.
I
There's
love it.
a dramatic difference between cancer causing and cancer prevention, cancer curing, and cancer reversal. Something no drug on this planet. We're spending $1 trillion on cancer research, and just eating beans and grains will get you better results than any drug on this market. And people don't know this.
I gotta ask you, and Bryan, you can cut this out if you want. Paul, you've explained to me how you had a pretty crappy diet, right? I mean, growing up, throughout your adulthood, pretty crappy diet. So, Geoff, what's your take on, like, why are people my age getting colon cancer, but Paul's, like, your generation didn't get it so young?
Adaptation. I
mean, I agree with you, Geoff, but I mean, I immediately say, like, Paul grew up with more mom and dad making the food from scratch in the kitchen, even though it wasn't healthy for you. And we went into, you and I were in this high fructose corn syrup, hamburger helper, microwave dinner thing, and Paul's just lagging behind us. I don't know. That's my quick analysis, but Geoff's the expert here.
And I don't mean adaptation as in they're not. It's because adaptation, there's a thing called hormesis, where something that's negative in a small amount will actually help the body respond or defend against that even better. So it actually improves health. If it's in a large amount, our body can't adapt to that quick enough, and it overpowers, and then it becomes disease causing. So what I'm saying is we adapted in smaller amounts. When we're eating lots of whole food, fresh organic fruits and vegetables with our meat, okay, we can compensate. We can adapt for that. There's a room for our body to do that. When we're eating all these ultra-processed foods and chemicals and pesticides, we're throwing so many negatives at the body, it says, well, I can't defend against all of that. And that's where the breakdown is coming. Yes, heme iron is cancer-causing, whether you eat it with vegetables or not. But yes, the plants can overcome this, especially if you're not throwing other things at it on top of that.
Very well said. Very well said. That makes a lot of sense.
I know we're going to run out of time a little bit, so I wanted to just spend 1 minute from each of us on the ethical side of it, because I think that's just as important. Because in my little bit of research I was able to do, you know, all of the lab-grown meat is still relying on some sort of starter. It's still running on the animal cells. Sometimes it's even the fetal bovine serum, etc., and things like that. And so I want to just sort of see, what do you guys think about how those practices align with the vegan ethics and the broader goals of animal rights? So I'll let Tom or Brett, who wants to go first?
I mean, they don't align, right? Because you're still using the animal. I mean, simply put, right? You're still using and abusing the animal to create some product out of it when you don't need to. That's always been my preach to, like, people my age, where they're like, I need, you know, in the gym or something, like, I need meat. You don't need meat. You just don't need it. So anything that you're doing that is requiring an animal that you think is required for your health or your vitamins or anything like that is false. You don't need it. That's my take on it.
I think my add-on would be, and this is, you know, mostly based on my own experience, and my transition was before the really accurate replications of meat were happening, you know, before Impossible, before Beyond, and so forth. I used those fake meats as a stepping stone to get where I am. So I guess I'm dabbling in the areas, does the end justify the means? I got there, I got to being whole food plant-based with fake meat. So, because I didn't have the knowledge, I guess I wasn't a real enough man back then to just start eating beans straight away. I wasn't that brave. So
I'm glad you are now, Tom.
I think it's not perfect, but for a lot of people that might be necessary.
Yeah. Paul or Geoff?
I think there's the old Hitler analogy. Would you, if you were against killing people, would you still kill Hitler to save millions of people's lives? My answer would be yes. And so as much as I am a compassionate, ethical vegan and do not believe, like Brett said, in the abuse of any animals for any reason, like we see in animal testing in labs. There was an animal test on a product that showed, hey, we don't need to use animals at all for something. So I'm like, okay, a few lab animals died. I don't want to see any lab animals die. But could them saving trillions of animals because of this new information be a positive? Look, I personally would volunteer my life if I could save trillions of human beings from suffering and dying. Yeah, I'd give my life. I'd do that. I'm not saying I should, suggesting anybody else should or should, but that's the book. I have to see, is the trade-off for what's going to happen? Are more animals going to be saved from suffering and harm? Is the greater good better? I think so. I don't like that path, but it's the path that I think humans are going to take anyway, so my opinion may not matter.
It's either going to be that or it's going to add more fuel to the fire. I'm not sure. It's going to just create more meat.
It's funny how it all comes back to us humans, like I said. We got to make the humans right. Saying all that, in my heyday of bad eating, there was a restaurant by me that was a wild game restaurant. And one day, through a bunch of old fashions, I said, let's try everything you have on the menu. I was on an expense account. I was with my boss. Let's have some fun. And I realized it was either stringy meat or stringy beef. A stringy chicken, it was either chicken-like or meat-like. That was it. So if you had rattlesnake, it tasted like chicken. If you had monkey, it tasted like I didn't care back then. I didn't think about that stuff. What I find interesting, again, is when you bring back that count. I am a dog lover. A lot of us have dogs or cats. And I always thought that they won the life's lottery because we covet our dogs and our cats and we eat every other animal. What happens if it would have been goats and sheep that were our pets and we ate dogs and cats? You know what I mean? So to me, it's like funny how people can disengage. They love their dog and they love their pets, but they'll eat, meat or chicken or something. So to me, I just find it kind of humorous. Okay. But again, it goes back to what I firmly believe, which is we may have all the good reasons in the world to save the planet and help animals. But until we get our human head right on this and get healthier, I don't see a change, a quick enough change.
Yeah.
But
I really appreciate everybody coming together. This has been an amazing discussion as always. I do want to share my screen one more time and just look at the kill counter. And we look at this, we're almost an hour in and almost 10 million marine animals, almost 5 million chickens, a little over 200,000 ducks, 100,000 pigs, down to the cows, almost 30,000 cows. So it just goes to show how dominant of a species humanity is and how many animals need to suffer every second to help feed all of us. So as we wrap up, guys, I was just curious, what do you feel was the key takeaway of today's episode, and how can we get in touch with you guys to help you with your missions in this plant-based world that we're living in? Tom?
Learn to want the plants. Eat the real food first. On that, and again, my name is Tom at nutmegnotebook.com. I can be reached at tom@nutmegnotebook.com.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Brett?
I just have a simple, be a real man. I'm going to try to say this the right way this time, because the first time I said it was kind of a tongue twister because I was looking behind you.
It is a tongue twister, yeah.
But I'm just going to say be a real man that eats plants, right?
I love it.
I mean, I did this when I was in my 20s, and I've said this before. I thought I had energy before I did this, but the energy that I gained after I went plant-based was insanely higher. So, everything about this has changed my life dramatically, from caring about the animals, the environment, and my health, but also mental health, exercise. Everything kind of trickled down from just going plant-based. Like, my life just got insanely better because of it. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel. Once again, my name is Brett Nyquist, Director of Technology for PBNSG, and I can be reached at brett@pbnsg.org.
Awesome. Geoff.
Yes. I want to just put it out there. First question we get is, where do you get your protein? 61 years of age. I think I got enough protein. This is a myth that all essential amino acids are made by plants and some bacteria. Animals don't make essential amino acids. It's impossible. That's why they're called essential, because we need them. Same with essential fats. There's only 2 essential fats, and it's not EPA and DHA. Those are non-essential because we can make our own in our own body, just like every other animal can, except for carnivores. So all of the nutrients come from plants or bacteria or fungi, all of them. There's not a single one that is made by animals. Animals are consumers. Plants are producers of nutrition, fungi and plants. So there is not a single nutrient that the human being needs that comes or is made exclusively by an animal. Not one. So why eat them? If we're taking all these nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, and feeding them to an animal just to kill the animal and eat them, why not get them from Costco, right? From the wholesaler, the plant.
Well said. Well said.
So you can check out my videos too. I'm on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook at Clean Machine Fit, and on YouTube at Clean Machine Online, where you can see all my podcasts on all the latest nutritional research in the plant-based and fitness movement.
Awesome.
All right.
And Geoff, as you've demonstrated numerous times, you're an expert in this space, so check out his stuff. Paul.
I'll go as quick as I can. A couple items. One is, first, Geoff, I would like you to be the spokesperson for the Sage Circle Alliance. We'll talk later, I hope. Secondly, I used to be on 5 different pills. By going plant-based, I'm on one. I don't even need that one, but I'm appeasing my doctor because he's at the Cleveland Clinic and he knows everything. At 66 years old, when I get around my buddies, the guys I grew up with, I've known them, 8 of them for 40 years plus. One thing I hear that's common is all their pain and suffering, all this sore, this pill, that pill. Well, guess what? I go every single day, and I'm not going to show my arms because Geoff has got better arms, but mine are damn good for my age. The fact is, I'm not sore ever. So to me, when I'm giving up my meat, hey, what I get instead is recovery every day. I get to go out like I'm leaving right now for 20 miles of bike riding, okay? So the way to reach me is paul@pbnsg.org. And everyone, hold on, we're going to put everyone together under one big umbrella and create a voice. And within the next 30 days, you can go on to our website, which will be the Sage Circle Alliance. So it's been 9 months working. We're about ready to show it off a little bit. So thank you so much, Bryan, and everybody.
Thank you. And so, just as a reminder, everybody, the kill counter that we were showing throughout this episode is from Animals Deserve Absolute Protection Today and Tomorrow. It's an acronym, ADAPT, and you can see that at adapt.org. So check that out and support them where you can. And a big thank you to everybody. I really appreciate all you real men coming together and having a great topic. I couldn't do this show and get this word out without all you experts out there. So thank you all. I learn a ton just by hanging out with you guys every time. I'm going to get Geoff's speeches down pat here. And I hope all you listeners out there are picking up as much as we are. We need your help. If you love this episode, we want to know what you want to talk about next. So some of these episode topics are based on your feedback and comments. So comment below on this video. Tell us what you want to hear. us talk about in future episodes. And if you love this, then like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. And hopefully we can get more real men eating plants with us. So thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us. That's all for this episode of the Real Men Eat Plants podcast. See you next time, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, you've reached the end of another enlightening episode of Real Men Eat Plants. We've revved up the man machine and explored the thrilling world of veggies. Remember, guys, flexing your manhood isn't about the size of the steak on your plate, but the strength of sprouts in your salad bowl. For those eager to continue their journey towards plant-powered masculinity, buckle up and head over to our website at realmeneatplants.com. There, you'll unlock access to exclusive content, mouth-watering recipes, and advice from the plant-based powerhouses themselves. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on social media for your daily dose of inspiration and connect with a community of men just like you who have joined the Plant Parade. Remember, it's not just about becoming stronger, healthier, and more vibrant. You're also becoming an eco-warrior, playing a vital role in the wellness of our planet. We appreciate your support and can't wait to catch up with you in the next episode. Until then, keep fueling your manhood with Mother Nature's pantry. And remember, with a sprig of humor, Real Men Eat Plants will be rooting for you until we meet again.